We're back, and this will be the first one whilst I've been away. We have made it to Kuala Lumpur, which wasn't even part of our plan, so it just kind of goes to show the freedom that we have at the moment. The plan was to sort of come all the way round back down. Obviously, Thailand is huge, so we were going to sort of, from Bangkok, head down the south. But when we were looking at heading down, it was looking at sort of 40, 50 pounds just to get to the south. And that was like a bus, which was like 15, 16 hours, maybe longer. And it's high season as well. So all of the hostels were, if they weren't booked up, they're all really expensive. So we were looking at between 25 and 40 pounds a night for a hostel bed, which is just insane. I mean, we've been averaging between £7 to £10 a night. I mean, if we've been staying in a particularly like boutique place, which is more of a hotel, then we might pay sort of £12. But yeah, I mean, even though I have a relatively healthy budget, I am so reluctant to pay anywhere higher than sort of £15 for a bed. I've been to the south before, so there wasn't really anything that was pulling me there other than the fact of I'm in Thailand, I've got the visa. So made the decision to look at flights. Malaysia I paid £80. That was including baggage, and it's just a 2-hour flight from Bangkok. So we are now in Kuala Lumpur. It's very sticky, very warm. I've never been here before. It seems like I've done so much in such a short space of time. It's coming up to 3 weeks now since I've been away, and I do finally sort of feel like I am settling. But those sort of first couple of weeks, we were doing something every single day, and even today it's sort of 2 o'clock here, and I've just actually got some time to just decompress, do some filming, do some journaling, and do some other bits, things that I was enjoying whilst I was at home. It kind of fuels that creative side. So I think to have some time to actually do that is in itself quite relaxing. Whilst we were traveling up and around, it was 2 days here, then a bus. It was 3 nights here, then a bus. So we were just bopping about, and we were doing something, whether that was a temple, whether that was going to the gym, going for a run. Everything was active. So it was just a lot. And I think even though I've been away before and I have the experience of understanding how I enjoyed to travel, and also how me and Lily traveled together, but also the need to slow down and break up your trip to have some slow days and relaxing days, I guess I just kind of got lost in the excitement of everything. And being at home, it was get up and go to work. It was get to the gym before I go to work. It was, I've got a day off today, what do I do? It was, right, I need to see 2 friends this week, or I've got counselling this week. So everything was centered around planning things, whereas now my time is just my own. So I have to adjust, or I have had to adjust to that need, or feeling like I need to fill my time doesn't actually exist anymore. So I can just have days where I just sit around the hostel. I can just have days where all I do is go and eat, go and have a coffee somewhere. We went to Kanchanaburi. That was really cool. I didn't really know what to expect when we got there. It was a bit of a mix. It was quite authentic sort of Thailand, but then at the same time, they had kind of the street of bars where you had all of the Farangs, or old white guys who were there for reasons that we won't ever know. But the history and the nature was really quite something. We did the museum tour, and we checked out sort of all over the river. It gave sort of so much information surrounding how the prisoners of war were treated when they were sort of taken by the Japanese. And it was really cool for me. I never met my granddad. He passed away before I was born, but he was actually a prisoner of war up in Burma. So to kind of get an idea as to some of the experiences that he would have experienced back in World War II. Then we headed all the way up to the top. Didn't do the thing we went to Chiang Mai for. I've been to Chiang Mai 3 or 4 times now, and I still haven't done what I'm probably going to say wrong, but the Doi in Danone tour. It's like the highest point in Thailand. It's sort of the famous temple up in Chiang Mai, but just still haven't got around to it. Again, it was sort of £40 to do a tour, and at the minute I'm averaging £19 a day, so that's like 2 days budget. And yeah, so it's just decisions. I'm away for a long time. I've got the yoga course that I still need to finish paying for, so decided not to do it. But still, I love Chiang Mai. We had a really good time there. We did the Monk's Trail, which was a hike, which was super hard. We read all the reviews online that was like, oh yeah, the first bit's really easy. You get to this really serene, scenic temple with like a waterfall that comes through, and we were like sick. And then like the next bit is like more of an incline, quite hard, and it gets you up to Doi Suthep. And I don't know why we didn't believe people. We were just like, yeah, it's fine. It was not fine. I really struggled, but we made it, and it was worth it. And actually, at the top of Doi Suthep was one of the wholesome moments that I've had so far on this trip. So obviously, when I hiked up, I was wearing shorts, probably shorter than this. I was just wearing like another vest, and as we sort of got to the top, we'd like packed some lunch. So we were eating our lunch on a table, and there was a Thai family that sort of came up just behind us. They sat to the table next. I then started taking my kit off because I'm changing. So I like take my t-shirt off, and like this guy's face is like a picture. Obviously, we're not too far from the temple, and kind of the rules in and around the temples are shoulders and knees need to be covered. It's much more strict for women, but it's sort of men should respect it. But unfortunately, a lot of like male tourists don't. They just go in tanks and shorts and things. So it's just a bit disrespectful in my mind. So yeah, I've taken my top off, and like his face is like a bit of a picture. And then obviously I put my longer sleeve on, and then I like just throw my trousers on over my shorts. And like then he obviously notices what I'm doing, and he's like, "Oh, crab," and he's like thanking me, and like he was like really grateful that I was making the effort to go up to the temple. The one that sort of other one that springs to mind for now was we found this little coffee shop in Kanchanaburi, like little independent. He like pulled pressed like his own coffee and everything, locally sourced beans, whatnot. So I managed to get myself like a decent coffee from him, and it was like his own little shop that he'd like made out of his house basically. And I only had 100 baht, and it was like 40 or 60 baht. So he like was tapping, and he didn't have any change. So then like, I had 2 20s, and he was like, "Oh, it's fine. Like 40 baht is fine." And I was like, "Don't be silly. Like I will just give you the 100 baht because, yeah, obviously the conversion, the currency and stuff. I would pay that for the coffee back home." So I was just like, "It's fine. You just take it." He was like, "No, no, no, no." So like we had this back and forth with a bit of broken English, and ultimately like I left when it got changed and like paid him what the coffee was priced at. But it was just like the fact that someone who comes from the background that they are from, and like 20 baht to them is probably is worth more than it is to me. And yeah, I just think it's nice that even though I didn't have the correct change, or he didn't have change for me, he was still prepared to take less money in order to just not like take extra. But I digress. I've like flown off onto a different tangent. So we were in Chiang Mai, and we were going to extend, but the hostel didn't have an extra couple of nights for us. Lily suggested going to a different hostel, but me being impulsive, I was like, if I'm going to leave the hostel, then I might as well leave Chiang Mai. In hindsight, I think it would have probably been better to stay an extra couple of days in Chiang Mai because we would have slowed down. From Chiang Mai to Sukhothai, which was about 6 hours, and that was like a really like sleepy town, not sleepy town in the sense of there was lots going on. It was just Thailand. We saw, probably could count on one hand the amount of Farangs that we saw, foreigners, and it was just really cool being in an environment where English isn't necessarily their strongest because they don't get the opportunity to speak it. Eating super local. So that was really cool. And then we got to go and see the historical park, which was stunning. It was probably like 3 to 5 kilometers, like all the way around. We hired bikes and we just sort of cycled from bit to bit, ruin to ruin. And that was just like a really cool day. It was not touristy at all, which was amazing because so many places in Thailand now, especially in the south, but Chiang Mai, Bangkok, it's just buses and buses and buses and buses of tourists. And you just can't really experience anything without being in someone's photo or someone's being in your photo. And I know that it's not all about the photo and the content, it's about experiencing where you are. But yeah, just having like the park almost to ourselves at times was just like a really, really nice experience. We then went an hour across to Phitsanulok, which was quite strange. It's a big city. I read somewhere online that it's like better than Bangkok. We decided to stay in. Usually the focus is around the hostel as to comfortable beds, privacy curtains, and I will pay a bit more in order to have the comfort rather than like the social party vibes that you get in a lot of hostels. We went for the slightly cheaper option because all of the reviews said that the hostel owner is just like super, super helpful. So we arrived, it was a guy called Mark. He was he couldn't have been any more stereotypical, like, I went traveling and now I'm still here. He was like super lean, like long hair, and he even like spoke softly, but I don't know how long he's been in Phitsanulok, but he's been in Thailand for 22 years. And like the guy was so knowledgeable and so helpful, and he gave us so many ideas for like little things to do in Phitsanulok. And that brings me to the next, probably most wholesome experience I've had out of like all 3 of my trips now. On the wall in the hostel was a poster for like a fitness studio, and we had the option to, like, it was 100 baht for the day, which is just over £2. First hour was TRX, which is like the pool band things that you can do, like various different, it's all body weight stuff basically. And I've like used them occasionally, but I've never done like a class or like a full workout with them. But it was like, okay, cool, yeah, that sounds good. And then the second hour was yoga. So I was like, great, I've not done any yoga yet. I've done yoga in and around the hostel when I've had time or when I've given myself the chance, but I've not been to any studios or anything. So we thought, right, we'll go and do that the next morning. Rocked up to, it was like upstairs in it was like a 4 or 5 story like supermarket on the bottom, various stalls, but everything was like empty. It was almost like it was abandoned. Then we got to the 4th floor, and like as we came through, there was like this proper like old sort of studio, like out of like the 2000s or something. It had like the mirror across and then like mats and things. And there was about 15 Thai ladies, and as soon as they saw us like come out of the lift or the elevator, they were like, hello, like welcome, like come on in, blah, blah, blah. And we were a bit like, okay, well, we think this is the class, but this is not what we were expecting at all. So we head over, and they don't even ask for the money. They're just like, you're here for the class. And we were like, yeah, we wanted to, well, this is where like the yoga is, right? And the lady was, I can't even remember her name, which is bad, but she was so lovely and so welcoming. And then it just kind of like started, like just got into it. I was the only guy, and we later found out that all the women in the room, barred maybe like 1 or 2, and obviously the trainer, were all over 60, and they all looked great, and they were all super strong, super fit, super flexible, and I think they do that every day. But it was just like so wholesome and so much fun because they just fully allowed us to be a part of their session. The first 15 minutes was essentially like a Zumba style workout. So we were like doing all the steps this way, that way. And it was just like, you couldn't help but smile. And then the workout was genuinely really hard. and then the yoga, like we did some cool stretches and things that I've not done in my own practice, which was fun. And then at the end, the trainer even gave us like a 2-minute Thai massage, and then they all had like these sweet treats and savory things that they kind of like got out, and they were like getting us to try them. So it was just like such a like positive, wholesome experience that if we hadn't have gone to this random city in Thailand, we wouldn't have. And if we hadn't booked that hostel, we wouldn't have found. So that had just put like a smile on our faces all day. And then there was like a Chinese temple, and obviously it's Chinese New Year, but 40% of the Thai population have Chinese heritage. So that's why like the Chinese New Year is so big here, and why there's so many Chinese temples and such, like Chinese influence. Once you kind of get away from your Koh Samui, your sort of Ao Nangs and whatnot, like on the south where it is just like Phuket, where it's just tourism. We headed down to BKK, Bangkok, and that was when we were supposed to head down to the south. But as you can see, I mean, there's no buildings which would identify this as Kuala Lumpur, but we are in Kuala Lumpur. We came here with a third person. We were chatting about the south, where we were going to go, what we wanted the south to look like. And a girl who was on the table opposite us, Danielle, she overheard our conversation. She kind of was like, I'm really sorry for eavesdropping, but I'm thinking about going to the south as well, and I'm having the same thoughts, feelings, concerns that you are. So we like invited her over, and we sort of got chatting about where we were going to go next, what options she has, what options we have. After 15, 20 minutes, we kind of got a good vibe, and we all said, yeah, sure, let's look at Kuala Lumpur, and here we are. All in all, I've done a lot, and through all of that, I've been like quite stressed, quite anxious. Well, not like all the time, because obviously we've had lots of distractions, but then in those spaces in between where you sort of come down from the exciting activity or the place that you've seen or the things you've learned, it's been a lot. I've kind of done the whole, why am I here? What am I doing? What am I going to do next? Where am I going to go next? How long am I going to be away for? Just all these kind of really like anxious thoughts, which I think when I was at home, because I had this trip planned for so long, whenever I was anxious at home, something I've kind of had CBT to deal with, and that sort of really helped. But something I always had in my sort of locker at home was, well, the trip's coming up. So if I was anxious about what job am I going to do? Am I going to work in this cafe forever? What do I want in a relationship? What do I want? What about this business idea? Like all of the things that you ultimately get anxious about. I always had, well, in 3 months' time, in a week's time, in 6 months' time, I'm going to be in Asia and none of this will matter. So that's always been like a nice little backup in my locker. Obviously, getting here has been great and exciting, and I've loved it. But because I've removed that safety net, I now don't know what tomorrow brings. I now don't know what 3 months brings, what 6 months brings. I know I've got some like timelines for when I'm going to be in the Philippines, when I'm going to be in Indonesia, when I'm doing the yoga course. But past that, that question of what's next has been kind of like spiraling. And that has caused quite a lot of sort of stress and anxiety. But the last few days seem to feel like I've settled much more. I'm trying to keep up with some of the things that I was doing at home, which was making me feel better in terms of just sort of like being in touch with the moon cycles of, it's a full moon, so what do I need to release? What are the things that aren't serving me? What processes do I not want from either the past 4 weeks or the past few months? And then come now to the new moon or the Chinese New Year, I sort of took some time this morning, and it's like, okay, cool. Well, I know where I've been, but what's next? So what am I grateful for? What am I looking forward to? What are some things I'd like to change? How am I going to do that? And those things which really helped me to stay present at home and work through a lot of the insecurities and fears that I used to really sort of suffer with because I didn't really have an outlet. I'm now finding a bit more time to do that here, which is obviously important. And it was never going to be an easy, like it. I think it's an easier shift for me on the basis of I've been here before and I've been away before, so I know what to expect. But like anything, any sort of change is uncomfortable. I think people you think like the interview answers of they want people that are good with change and open to change. And I think everyone is open to change, but the actual doing the thing, especially when it's not just, can you change your shift by an hour, or I can't come to the gym today, you're going to have to go by yourself, whatever that change is. When it's, I'm changing environment, weather, people, place, food, like there's so many things that you're changing that, yeah, I think it does take time to adjust. Haven't really said much about where I'm going, but that's because I don't really know. We've got 2 or 3 weeks in Malaysia. I will hopefully look to do another video in a few weeks' time to recap Malaysia. And the best part is Malaysian drone laws are much more straightforward than Thailand. Thailand, you have to register your drone, you have to have a certificate, insurance, and everything else, which is fine. It's very accessible to get. But I just thought, you know what? It's just not worth it. I'm not going to put it up at risk of it being taken off me, getting fined, all of those things. So I just didn't use it for the first couple of weeks. But in Malaysia, I can use it pretty much anywhere. It's quite lax, other than populated areas, the usual laws that you kind of have in and around the UK. So I'm hoping to get some footage for Malaysia. But anyway, that's where I'm at. So I will update this and let you know what happens next. So if you enjoyed the update, if you like what you've seen, then give me a like, give me a comment, share it, and subscribe would be great. Still don't really know where I'm going with the YouTube at the minute. I've slowed down on my Instagram, but this is something that is just going to keep evolving as time goes on. So any support, any likes, comments, shares, any subscriptions will be beneficial for what happens in the future. So please subscribe. Thank you. Bye.